and
Let's see if let's see if I can hear myself here.
I'll go listen on that.
Cool.
I can hear you, Ashley. Ash.
I'm live, but can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? This is a test. See if you can hear me live. Okay.
Can you not hear me, Ashley? Ash?
Hey, Ash. Ash, can you talk?
I don't know that he can hear because
I can't hear you, Mike.
You can't hear me. You gotta.
Can you hear me?
Can't
Mike?
hear you.
I can hear you, Jory. So Ashley's speakers are just not connected properly yet. So I'll go get his speakers going. And but the
I
microphone
cannot hear
sounds
you.
really good. Your microphone sounds good.
Yep, your microphone.
Yeah, your microphone sounds great.
But I just can't hear you.
Because your volume is down to 0. Oh, it's up. All right. Let's just check the settings again.
You want in on the fun, Matt?
Yeah, can you guys hear me and see me?
I can hear and see you. Ashley can't
okay.
hear you yet.
Let's try this. What's going on?
Yeah, he's having trouble. Look at his hair, man. He looks like a model. God, I wish I had hair like that. I remember those days.
You do, it's just on your face.
Now, let me.
Yeah, I used to have long curly hair, man. Like people pay to have hair like what I used to have.
So let's do this. Watch.
Just relax.
Like I had a perm, but I didn't.
Not work.
But look at you, you can pull it off both ways.
Let's go into sound.
Yeah, now I'm just old and white faced and white haired and bald.
Go into
Beamer G.
there we go.
Wait, what is Pitbull say?
Yeah, we had to turn the volume up.
Yeah.
Every day above ground is a birthday.
Yeah, you're echoing.
That's because you're hearing me in Ashley's.
I can hear Ashley talking, by the way.
Yeah, we're good. Can you see me?
I can see you and hear you.
How was your college trip, Matt?
You know, Gonzaga is before we talk about that, where's Greg?
I see it. I got to bring him in. Boom.
Okay,
There's Greg.
cool. So Gonzaga was when I went to Denver about a month ago, we went to Regis University and we went to the University of Denver. Regis only has like 3,500 undergrads. It's not a very big campus. Denver is a fairly large campus, and I think they have about 9 or 10,000 undergrads and 3 or 4 grads on campus.
Did you hear the echo?
Yeah, I do.
Let me try something a second. How's that?
Fine.
Better?
Yeah, that's better.
Or just take Jory out.
I just
Jory,
turned
mute
my
yourself.
I just turned my game.
There's still an echo.
Hopefully it's echoing. Somehow it's
Yeah, just have Jory mute her microphone.
It's not me. I'm not there. It's Ashley's speaker.
Echo suppression.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah,
I just,
no
put
echo.
I just put echo suppression on.
There you go.
Hello.
I don't hear it.
us. Woohoo! Good job, Ash.
All right.
So
Got
to
it.
answer the question, Regis was a small little school, and Denver was a big school. and it surprised me. I didn't realize the University of Denver was that big. Then when we went up to Gonzaga, I thought it was going to be a big school. That surprised me. It's only like 5,000 students, so it was a much smaller school than I realized.
Well,
more like
what's
Regis.
DU, like 15, 16,000?
DU's 15, 16,000, and Gonzaga's like 5.
Yeah.
It's more like the size of Duke or Regis, or I mean, I went to Oregon State. Oregon State's 25,000 people.
Right.
I know like the big universities like Minnesota and Michigan and Northwestern have 40, 50, 60,000 students, that kind of stuff. Well, Gonzaga is not like that. And I thought Gonzaga's campus was going to be similar size to, like, say, an Oregon State or Portland State, like a much bigger. It wasn't. It's a beautiful campus, nice people. If you've ever been to Spokane, it's a nice climate. You get a true winter, but you get a nice springtime and summer. It's actually probably one of the nicest summers in North America if you're living up in the Northwest. Is hard to beat when it comes to summertime, honestly. We don't have the humidity you guys get. Might be the only part of America where we don't get overrun with humidity from June through September.
Right on. Well, I'll kick it off. I think we have some people streaming in. Welcome to This Week in Lumber with Matt Beamer from Hampton Lumber Sales. From the Hampton Lumber Sales. And Greg Riley from Sitka, USA. Greg and I actually had a chance to have, cheers, boys. Greg and I actually had a chance to have breakfast, and like we don't talk about it all day long, couple hours on Saturdays too. What's your deal, Greg? You said you get more done on 3 or 4 hours on Saturdays than you can get done in a whole day during the week?
More done on those 3 or 4 hours on Saturday morning than you get most days. That's for sure. Yep.
So we'll kind of kick it off. Let's talk a little bit about where we're at in lumber. There's a lot of knowns out there. We all know there's a war going on in the Ukraine. We all know that inflation is up, probably higher than the numbers are telling us. We all know what the houses under construction are. We know logistical situations going on. So those are all knowns. Yet the market seems to always, as Greg, you like to say, climb the wall of worry. I like to know about the things I don't know what I don't know about, and what's going on in the market. Because I think that let's start it off by talking about the lumber poll you did this week. A little bit more of a compressed time frame that you did it on, and give us the different. The 3 different choices and what the percentage was, and what you thought the feedback was on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I continue to try and fine tune the whole polling, and so that it can give us some valuable insight. And one of the things that I put out was the kudos to the folks that like what I think was 5 or 6 weeks ago that said that we were at the high of the year, which right now they're correct. And a real kudos to, I think it was the 13% of people that said we were going below $1,000. They were outliers in the poll, and they turned out to be right on. So this week's poll was, will the market bottom out in the next few weeks? And the numbers have come in, and 20. I guess the significant thing for me is 73% of people think the market's going to bottom in the next few weeks, this week or next week, I guess. And 60% think it's going to bounce and just move sideways. So, will be interesting to see if.
What was that percentage, Greg?
60% say bounce and move sideways.
60.
Right. So I mean, if history is a guide for me, it's those people are wrong. And it's either going back to the highs of the year or it's going to keep going down.
Good point. I've been on a few calls in the last week or so with people. Joined a call with a group of industry people yesterday. It seems to me that there has been some activity as this market has fallen, as there should be and always is, right? I guess the real question is, will there be any follow through? Is there any follow through? What are people waiting for? because the outtake still feels really good to me, and people still want to build houses, right? And people still want to position themselves to build houses. So where are we at in this cycle right now? I mean, historically, is there a historical buy coming up that is like a seasonal type of one that we normally see?
Well, I can tell you that we're in seasonal weakness, and it extends until Memorial Day. And
You're talking about like charts and graphs wise.
yeah, I'm just that's all. That's all I really know, Matt, is like the charts and
I just
graphs
want the
and
audience
numbers,
to know.
half
I know that you know, and Ashley knows. I know what you're talking about. I just want the audience to understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I appreciate. I had a call with my economist friend yesterday, and I had asked him a question about it. Basically my question was, is there any way that the Federal Reserve can engineer a soft landing? And with 40% money supply growth over the last 2 years, and the conclusion is probably not.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the backdrop. I mean, and like his point is, we had 40% money supply growth in the last 2 years. The average annual money supply growth prior to that, 6% a year. So, and in February, money supply growth was running at 12% annual. So that's double the average. His point is inflation, he goes back to Milton Friedman, and inflation is a monetary phenomenon. We printed, we pumped $6 trillion into the economy, and the Fed expanded their balance sheet, expanded money supply by 40% over the last 2 years. That's why we have inflation, and all of the other stuff. I can tell you what the reason why we don't have inflation. Ukraine, if it wasn't for all the money, we wouldn't have as high oil and gas prices as we do.
I was told that it was because of the war we have inflation, Greg, on the news broadcast last night.
Well, I mean, I think you and I've talked about this. The nightly news is, while it's better than China and Russia's news in terms of its propaganda, it's still a version of it.
Yeah, it's hard.
I don't think they don't really know what they're talking about most of the time, right? I mean, it's not like they're expert in the field of inflation. But here, simply put, we've been talking about inflation amongst us three here, our little group, since last June.
Yeah.
I remember, Greg, your first mocking comment was about May or June last year about transitory inflation, right? So this is going on for 10 months in our world that we live in, the real world, right? So this is the problem that we don't want. Like, we talk about technicals and we talk about the futures charts and we talk about seasonal weakness and strength and blah, blah, blah. In reality, you and I all live in the real world. And in the real world, we're taking a 20% pay cut right now this year. Okay? It's really that simple. The American consumer has 20% less buying power, and he walks out his door this morning when he's buying his groceries and his gas, and he wants to do a remodel in his bathroom. Not only that, he's going to have to wait twice as long or 3 times as long to get all the contractors and material to get that job done. So what you're seeing is demand destruction. It's costing you way more to do what you want to do. It's taking way longer to get it done. And eventually people just throw their hands in the air and say, screw it.
I'm going to Disneyland.
I'm just going to do nothing, right? I'm going to do nothing instead. I'll just do nothing. And so when I drive by the CarMax lot on my way home every day and I see that thing is jam-packed full to the brim of used cars, it doesn't surprise me. When I drive by the Home Depot on my way home every day and I see stacks of material for the springtime sitting there going nowhere, it doesn't surprise me. We're seeing this thing that Greg always talks about. Nothing cures high prices like high prices. And not only that, we got a double whammy where we have political turmoil, we have World War type crap talking about in the background. We have our lives to live. We just got done with 2 years of being cooped up in our homes with COVID, right? And the federal government wants to extend the mask mandate in the airports and on the airplanes. I mean, talk about not reading the room. Okay, we got a problem.
Amen to that.
We got a problem. And
Well,
the idea
like-
that we deserve $1,200 lumber, throw that out the window. I'm actually turning actively negative on this whole thing. I'm looking ahead at the next 4 or 5 months, and instead of being the raging bull that I've been for the last 3 or 4 months, I'm starting to think, I'm starting to become a raging bear. All the signs that I'm seeing make me feel like I should just disappear for a couple months and not worry about it. Go on vacation. Because my job's not getting any easier. Finding trucks isn't any easier. Getting rail cars isn't any easier. What's the point?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like trucking has loosened up considerably over the last few weeks in the lanes that I work in, and I'm not going to say that there's substantially lower rates, but I do, I have much more availability, and we're trying to inch the rates back down from basically 100% above where they were. As you talk about like things that we go back to this. There's things that you know. There's things that you think and there's things that you don't know. And the things that we know that we don't know don't matter because they're unknowable unknowns. But the thing I think I do know is that, to Matt's point, home center business has slowed, I'm going to say substantially. And I know that anecdotally from the reports from treaters on Southern Yellow Pine, and now the mill list that I see of premium and select lumber available. That's available because the home center VMIs are not taking it. And that's extra supply to the rest of the market. So I think I know that. The other thing I think I know.
A treater yesterday, Greg, I heard him on a call say that somebody asked him a question, how's your outtake right now? Now, this was just one person. He said, right now we should be building a lot of spring orders, and we're not seeing that for treated.
I mean, to Matt's point, I mean, when you have $50, $40 or $50 OSB, $10 studs, and $5 gas and everything else, and having been cooped up for 2 years, what are you going to do with your extra money? Are you going to go out and decide now's the time that you're going to do a home improvement project? I mean, I'm saying at the margin, no. There's obviously a certain amount's going to go on for sure.
Hey, we got paid $1,280 to be home for 2 years. Didn't you guys get that check in the mail?
I don't know what you're talking about. What?
I think there was wasn't there some kind of, out of that $4 or $5 trillion, didn't we get a check in the mail for that?
I think early on in the pandemic, didn't we all get like $750 checks or something
Maybe
one
that-
time?
maybe that was
I remember that. That was like in April of 2020.
Well, those are Trump dollars. Those Trump
I guess
dollars.
so. All I know is, I don't know what the 1280 he's referring to. Maybe it wasn't me.
He gets a bigger number.
I should move to Chicago. The benefits are better over there than they are in Oregon.
Matt, I don't want you to get too bearish though, because there's a lot of things that are going to be that are positives for housing, and in terms of what I'm saying. I'm expecting that there's going to be a retrenchment, right? We're gonna ease off the level that we've been at, but it's not like we're going to go back down to 1 million or 1.2 million housing starts, but we may drop down to, on an annualized rate, in the 1.4 million to high 4s or 5s. And that's what we kind of need for all of the supply chain issues to catch up with things.
Well, Greg, you and I talked yesterday, and so I asked the question.
We talk every day.
Right. Well, we talked multiple times, but it was interesting because I asked you the question. I'm like, well, okay, so what happened in 2005, 6, 7? It's a completely different market now. There's still a lot of demand to own houses. Even though it's still small, there's still investors buying houses now for cash, buying subdivisions for cash. So it would take a lot for that to change. But what you're saying is, and you explained to me that really what happened in that time frame was reckless abandonment of the way loans were going out. And valuation of homes, and I think that that's been tempered a little bit in this market. So we knew what happened back then. That probably isn't going to happen now. But life has a funny way of doing things you least expect. So you think that the housing market's going to still be robust, but maybe take the tip off the peak or the froth out a little bit?
Before we're all said and done with this housing market, we'll build 2 million houses again. So, I don't know whether it's in 2025 or 2030, right? But before we're all said and done, it's two things to your point, Ash. And one was a really good one that you brought up, was the investors owning homes. And the article was in the Journal on, it was Saturday, I think. 25% of homes in the fourth quarter were bought by investors. That's the Invitation Homes, the American Homes for Rent, and about 12 other private equity businesses that have pension money. Buying homes and renting them creates that like a dividend yield that's way better than 2.6% Treasury. That's a complete change in dynamic that didn't exist pre 2008-9. And I would expect to see that percentage rise between now and the end of this year as big builders look to do more of that, because it's easy. You don't have to worry about qualifying 100 different people. All you got to do is take cash from one guy. And then you asked about what's different in housing now versus 5 through 7, and the point was we took out $1.5 trillion a year of equity from houses, and there was a lot of fraud involved in appraisals, and we were appraising places that were worth $150,000 at $400,000.
Yeah, which is not happening anymore, I don't think, for the most part.
No, you can see mortgage brokers have had massive layoffs because home refinancing is dropped to zero. I mean, it's zero. There's no home refinancing going on, and there won't be for the foreseeable future, because everybody that was going to refinance has done that. They're all locked in at 2.5 or 3% mortgages, and
so let's funnel this down from the big picture to a smaller picture of where we're at right now. What's lumber going to do over the next 30 to 60 days?
Matt?
I mean, I think it should rally, and I've been feeling like it should rally for a while because inventories are lean, and it is springtime. This is the time of year that typically people, especially like the upper third of the United States, is coming out of winter, and so start plans and historical patterns come into play, and you have full participation of the marketplace in North America, where weather is not really a factor anymore, and you have more daylight. You just have more of everything, more of a building season. We're entering the building season. And entering the building season with low inventories is usually a recipe for a rally. We're not really seeing it yet. I don't know if people are nervous about owning lumber at, let's say, 1,000 to 1,100 Chicago in the cash market when they can buy the board at $890 FO mill, which is about $100 cheaper, let's say, than what the current cash market's going for. I really don't know why we haven't seen a significant rally yet, and maybe we won't get a significant rally. Maybe we'll just have one of these markets that just sort of bubbles along and goes up a little bit and goes down a little bit. I really don't know. I'm not going to guess. Prices are too high for me to guess right now, right? So I think that might be what's slowing people down, is the fear of making a mistake and coming in a little too early, like last July, August. Some people did that after a big fall, let's say, from 1,700 down to 400. And some people stepped in around 800 and they regretted it. So maybe we're having some of that thought process going on right now. But if you just look at the fundamentals, there is a reason to buy. There's two really good reasons to buy: seasonality, time of year. We're going into like a prime building season for all of North America. And also We're getting a price rebate on most recent prices of, say, anywhere from $400 to $600 per thousand. That's quite significant. You're talking $40,000 to $60,000 per rail car. That's a lot of money. And we have lean inventory. And I don't know about you guys, but my rail issues haven't gotten any better. My trucking issues are marginally better, but it's not as smooth to book trucks as it was in, say, April of 2019, right?
It's
So,
certainly, it's certainly what I'm learning. It depends upon the lane, Matt, for sure. But some lanes, it's always the lanes that you need are the ones that are the toughest, right?
I mean, I'm naturally a bullish person this time of year with low inventories. I guess that's my answer. I'm not seeing it yet. I guess I wonder why. But then I drive by CarMax and Home Depot and I see why. Prices and inflation are taking a bite out of people, and maybe their appetite for spending more money is just kind of going away. That's possible.
I mean, the inventory question is always, so tough because none of us have any real-time actual data on it. All we ever really have is what we feel and what we think and what other people tell us. And I mean, back to Ashley's point is, what do I know? I know that the distribution system inventory is substantially lower. Why is that? Well, we had high prices and the mills were delaying, cars were delayed in shipment. The end users, were double and triple buying. And, we all, I say we all, or maybe I should say you all, y'all, we're happy to sell that product. But it appears from what I can see calling around that most of the distribution system, people like you and I, Matt, some of the big name brick and mortar, their own truck distributors reported also that, their inventories are quote unquote lean. There's no question about it. Then I say, well, what are the customers' inventories like? I did have a conversation with, someone today that saying, my customers are giving me the sense that they're light and they think they want to buy, but they're not really ready to buy yet. Okay. I just kind of try to think, so we've just come out of rail cars are delayed in getting, we've doubled and triple bought. Everyone was afraid they weren't going to be able to get their material. So, I just don't know how lean the end users really are. That's a question, not an answer, right?
So, well, let's have fun with this one. So we were talking to a person last night that locked in their lumber for the rest of the year.
What day was that they did that?
At a high number, but it's okay because they already have it sold at a profit, right? And this is locked in through the year, which I was like, wow. And I sometimes fail to remember that people have other businesses than just buying lumber. Lumber is a component of it sometimes, right? But they went through a multifamily jobber to lock them in for the year, right? So if you had a customer come to you right now, and I know this maybe, and said, hey, at today's number, I could lock in for the rest of the year, would you say do it?
So, I'm having these conversations every day right now, Ash, and we've got a number of things in front of us that are, kind of June, July starts. Yeah. And, what I'm recommending to people, hey, if today's number that we can give you for that is in your budget, buy it and move on. If you want to get fancy, buy half of it, play the other half. And if the market, rallies, then hey, at least you got the beginning of your job on base, and you buy the second half in July or August, and you're either going to pay more or less, but you've got that first part. That's kind of my recommendation. For the third and fourth quarter, and I know Matt, you and I are both doing this. Our prices for the third and fourth quarter are a discount to today's cash price.
Right. Yep.
We're discounting the third and fourth quarter because why? Because we have a risk management mechanism that we can deal with that. And I'm saying to those people is if this number works for you, why? To your point, Ashley, why mess around? Right.
Well, no,
so book it, move on.
Yeah.
My answer to that question, Ashley, is depends on what type of customer I'm talking to. If it was a job shipper, developer, guy that's doing apartments,
Yeah.
I would say what Greg just said. I would say, hey, Mr. Customer, you've spent the last 2 years facing 4-digit numbers, and fighting that battle and being off budget. So yeah, if you want to lock in 3-digit numbers here for at least half of your projects for the rest of the year, that's prudent. That makes some sense, because I'm pretty bullish on multifamily, right? I think no matter what the economy does, I think there's a demand for housing, period, that's been pent up for the last 14 years, going back to 2008. We haven't built enough housing in this country.
It is
There
showing
isn't
up in
enough
multi-
existing
yeah.
housing, right? So we,
Yeah.
just population growth and maturity of our population. We need more houses. We need more dwellings, and apartments are a really. I'm bullish on apartments, but for the guy that's servicing the single family home segment of the market, I don't know that I would give that same advice. I think I would just say, keep your cards closer to your vest, and instead of looking 9 months out, maybe look 3 or 4 months out. I wouldn't do that for that
Well,
guy. That's a different market segment that I would give different advice to.
And to that point, Matt, I mean, over this time period, most of all the pro dealers and the national builders have all gone to 30-day pricing anyhow. So
Right.
there's not a lot of market risk for either the pro dealer or the national home builder in that scenario. I mean, they're on the market, 30-day pricing, that's going to roll. And I mean, they're on the market every month.
I just think those guys' appetite for housing is going to shrink. I'm not as bullish on their appetite as I am on the multifamily apartment developer guy.
Yeah,
Housing starts for March will be out on Monday, I believe.
Just because we have a whole different array of people listening to this, could you give me a real life example, maybe, of what the price of, and this is nothing, just a rough, what's the price of a 2x4 104 and 5/8 for right now versus Q3 and Q4, if you were pricing it roughly?
I mean, I sold a prompt truck today at $11.95 Florida, and I'd be quoting that delivered for Q3. Oh, the board's up. Oh wait, my price just went up. Q3, I would be stand by. I'd be like 10.25.
Okay, so you basically be
$150 less.
Okay.
$170 less. Sorry.
On an item that 2 or 3 weeks ago was around $1,400.
$1,500. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. Matt, you got any like real life examples of that on what I mean?
Oh, I think that the lumber on the ground truck price is $200 to $300 higher than what I could sell a car of lumber for 3 weeks out, right? Because that lumber that I'm selling for 3 weeks out, it might actually be for 5 or 6 weeks out, because really nobody knows what is an accurate ship date anymore on rail cars. So that's the part of the equation that we're not really discussing here. But if I was just doing a forward sell type thing, Greg already hit that. He said it's about 150. It's about right, $100 to a $200 range, depending on the item and how you could spec it out.
Right. Depending on the item and where's it, like Western, like I'm seeing, Matt, in the East, I have a lot more people that have lumber for, prompt, like cars for next week's shipment. Are you seeing any of that at Western Spruce Mills? What is the average time that they're behind in shipping at this point?
I thought it was getting better, but I'm really not seeing it get a lot better.
Where are you guys at your mill? Like, is your mill running a week late, a month late?
All of our mills are anywhere from a week to 3 weeks late right now on rail cars, and it doesn't matter if it's the CN or the BN or the UP. So it doesn't matter which country our mills are in. I'm talking about all of our mills from northern BC all the way down to Willamina, which is the furthest south mill that we have in Oregon. And a lot of it is is, I mean, there's nothing that we can do about speeding up the performance of the CN or the BN or the UP, because I think those people and those companies have their own problems that are much bigger than the lumber business, right? I think they lost people. I think they've lost labor over the last 2 years, and they haven't been able to replace the labor that it would take to keep up with this level of demand for all types of different products. Not to do, I mean, lumber's about the 20th most important thing that these railroads care about, right? Like, we like to think we're important, but we're not. You know, coal, oil, you know, soybean oil, like, you know, fracking sand, things like that. The railroads are a lot more inclined to jump through hoops to solve those guys' problems, because they make a lot more money shipping those types of products than lumber. Lumber's relatively low paying, low profit margin for the railroads. So
is that true, or do, like, I mean, pricing on different commodities? I mean, I would suspect that, you know, you move a rail car from point A to point B, you know, does it matter whether it's a flat car or lumber or a hopper car? I mean, it's the same engine. I mean, that's a question. It's interesting to say. I want to find out about that. But Matt, you said something
historically,
there.
the lumber companies haven't had as much money to blow on transportation as, say, a coal or energy related segment of the market, where those guys have billions of dollars rolling around in their pockets. I mean, it wasn't until the last 2 years that the timber industry has actually made a lot of money. I mean, it's kind of a shoestring industry, right? If you think about it.
I remember the years where the CN made more money than the entire forest products industry made.
Right.
So you said something that I had a conversation with a big transportation company executive friend of mine. He's actually a board member at MX Exchange. And I asked him that specific question. I said, okay, you know, I know the issues on the Canadian National, and I hear about them on the BN. You know, are you seeing this across the board, NS, CS, UP? And he said, absolutely. And I said, is it because total rail car shipments are so much above where they were? And he said, absolutely not. They're not. Right. He said, it's 100% the attrition that they had over the last 2 years. They haven't replaced those employees. He said, right. UP had like 400 people in training right now. So, Matt, you're spot on. As always.
So that's affecting railroads. And then when the BN had sort of a walking strike, which I've been talking about, where our union guys are really angry at management for trying to implement these new overtime rules, and they've been that way since January 1st. This isn't some new recent development. Well, that pushed a lot of mills in Oregon, Washington, California, Idaho, Montana. You know, this is a breadbasket of lumber production. To start shipping everything UP. Well, guess what? The UP has limited capacity also. So we've overwhelmed the UP with shipments. And now all the cars are somewhere else, not back in the Pacific Northwest. So we don't have a lot of empties coming back to us right now. The BN has never really gotten better. Okay, the BN has just been bad all year. They have a labor thing that's not going away, hasn't been solved. But the UP is now everybody's friend for the first 2 or 3 months of the year, and now they've got themselves where they're behind because they logistically don't have enough manpower to move all these trains at the same speed that we're demanding they move them. So there you go. In a nutshell, there's not enough employees working for the CN, BN, or UP to keep up with just current demand.
Ash, my last unknown unknown is this, and then we're done. We're over the limit, huh?
Yeah, we're way over.
Oh man, 5 minutes. Yeah. You know, we had a guy that worked with us for a lot of years, and you know, he would say, okay, you have like every stick of lumber that gets made gets consumed, plus or minus, you know, the change in beginning inventory, ending inventory, right? And we've got, you know, there's production and there's end use consumption, and inventory accumulation, liquidation kind of runs like this across that supply demand equilibrium. And so, you know, that's what sets that marginal price. And, you know, figuring out where you are, and like I said, the whole inventory question is always a challenge because we don't have any good data on it. There you
We're
go.
waiting for the Holy Grail. Is there an answer to that, or is that one hand clapping?
I mean, I want you to walk away going,
Well, while
no,
we're
good.
talking, the board's rallying a little bit.
I know,
So maybe you should just keep talking, Greg.
I saw that. I saw that. It feels so personal, doesn't it, Matt?
Mhm.
All you had to do was say that you're getting really bearish, and the board gave you the middle finger, going, "I'm going to show you."
Yeah, I'm bearish in the long run, not in the short term, for the reasons that we already talked about in this 40 minutes
Yeah.
or so. But yeah, I mean, in the long run, I'm not bearish at all. I mean, I'm bullish on America, man. I like this country. I think we're really smart people, and we work hard, and we'll figure this all out together, as we always do. But in the last 2 years, we've had some trials and tribulations that we needed to get through, and I think we're getting through them. And there's going to be some speed bumps along the way, right? I mean, is it normal for us to be transacting lumber at 902 1,000? No, never in our whole careers is that normal. So let's not forget these things, right? Let's have some perspective here. The big picture perspective is things are going to be fine. We'll figure it out.
Amen to
Things
that.
are never as good or as bad as they seem, for sure.
Hey, where did you hear that from?
From you.
Only words of wisdom that ever came out of my mouth.
It's that's always a good mantra, like for anything in life, no matter what it is.
It's never as bad as you think it
is.
is.
It's never as
Never
bad
as
as you
good as you think it is.
Keep some level-headedness to it. Right.
True. It is true.
Guys, thanks, Matt, Greg. So Matt with Hampton Lumber Sales, Greg Riley. And hey, the show is working well. I know you guys both get contacted for people, and I do. And, come to mxlumber.com if you want a real digital experience buying and selling lumber. Would love to have
the incoming calls just keep increasing, Ash. We're gonna run all that business through the platform.
I love it, man.
Thank you.
I love it. I appreciate it, everybody. Matt, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time out of the day. Anybody
Thanks
have any
for
questions?
having me again.
They can email us or send us any inquiries, and we'll see what we can do. Appreciate it, guys.
Have a good